run off the bridge somewhere into a ditch.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times people are looking at leaders to be able to exponentially share their vision and where you are going. And if you stay finite, then people can't really capture into that vision. And how many times does a CEO or a lead really get the chance to speak to the masses of the organization? So if everything you do, you're always communicating what's the goal, what's the vision, and working backwards, you're always in real time sharing that vision, and people can buy into that, especially when you're a small company. I think when you're a large company, there's press releases, right? People can go online and, see what the chairman of the board was speaking about, the stockholders were speaking about. But when you're small, people need to see that and feel that every day. And that makes them believe in the company and want to stay with the company.
Well, welcome everyone to another episode of Leading with Audacious Confidence. I am your host, Alicia Couri, and with me today is Fran Dean-Bishop. I just love this woman. Let me tell you about Fran, and then we'll jump into this conversation here. So she's the CEO of Aerobodies Inc. and the creator of the MindWellSuite and Workforce Wakeup, turnkey systems designed to help employers of all sizes immediately create energy and engagement in their workplace culture. After 2 decades working with a range of sports and semi-pro athletes, Fran has parlayed her coaching acumen and training discipline into a multi-million-dollar workplace wellness brand, helping global brands and federal agencies design wellness engagement experiences that transform workplace culture and improve the productivity and resilience of thousands of employees. Since its start, Fran's company has served over 20,000 employees over 5 countries. The company has launched several proprietary fitness and wellness technologies serving the workplace, K through 12 students. And most recently, as a response to the pandemic, the company launched the Blaze Fitness app for health and wellness support, now available through Google Play and the Apple Store. Fran has been featured on ABC, local news in Washington, D.C., the Washington Business Journal, and several industry association publications, including Reagan Communications and National Contract Managers Association. I need a big breath to welcome Fran Dean-Bishop to the show. Thank you, Fran.
Oh, it's lovely to be here, Alicia. That was a lot to say. I realize now, it's like, okay, they put down a lot. So it's a mouthful. You got through it all. Thank you very much. I feel very humbled by that introduction.
It is fabulous what your company is doing, but you as the head of the company, all these initiatives and things that you're doing just to help support everyone in their health and wellness through everything that's been going on, especially. So my first question to everybody on this show is, what is your leadership philosophy?
That's a great thought-provoking question for a Friday morning. When I think about leadership means a lot of different things, right? Because you have to lead in so many different ways in your organization, in your home life, in your work life. You lead all the time if you really are controlling what's going to happen in terms of your vision and your mission. So my leadership philosophy is really to start with the end in mind and work backwards. And I tell my team that with everything that we do. I don't care if we're purchasing procurements for a big event that we're going to do for a client. I don't care if we're hiring someone for a new contract that we've won, or if we're looking at office space or looking for a new place to move into. And we really do think about, where are we going at the end of this? What does it look like when it's done? And work backwards from there, because then you're looking at the long term, you're looking at the long range plan.
Very good. Very good. Start with the end in mind. I think that's the first time someone has given that particular answer, but I love when you project all the way to the end, like, what is my goal here? What are we trying to accomplish here? And then reverse engineer so that we are taking all the right steps to get where we want to go and not run off the bridge somewhere into a ditch.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times people are looking at leaders to be able to exponentially share their vision and where you are going. And if you stay finite, then people can't really capture into that vision. And how many times does a CEO or a lead really get a chance to speak to the masses of the organization? So
Yeah.
if everything you do, you're always communicating what's the goal, what's the
Mhm.
vision, and working backwards, you're always in real time sharing that vision, and people can buy into that, especially when you're a small company. I think when you're a large company, there's press releases, right? People can go online and see what the chairman of the board was speaking about, the stockholders were speaking about. But when you're small, people need to see that and feel that every day, and that makes
Yeah.
them believe in the company and want to stay with the company.
That's great. That reminds me of NASA's mission. I know that's a big company and we're talking about small companies, but
Yeah.
when they had that mission to the moon, everybody was buying into it because that is all that everybody was saying. They were just putting that vision, putting that vision. This is what we're going to do. This is what's happening. So every step towards that was taking us. Yeah, we haven't even launched a man in space yet, but we're going to the moon, you know. We
Yeah.
haven't successfully done that yet, but that's not going to stop us from getting to the moon. And I'm sure SpaceX did the same thing. We're going to Mars. We're going to Mars. So having that forward vision so everybody knows, there's something that we're all working towards. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
So how did you start your whole company? How did that, what was the genesis of that?
I get that question a lot. It has lots of iterations, I'll tell you. So if you read it somewhere else, you'll be like, oh, I didn't know that part. I left that part out. But I'm a former track and field athlete. So athleticism since I was 7 years old has always been a part of my fabric.
Hmm.
And when I finished school, my degree, my focus was really to go into law. And after spending about 3 years going through the process in undergrad, I realized as I was graduating, time for a pivot. This is not really what's calling to me. So I pivoted back to business, right?
Hmm.
So I did really well in business. I was in sales. If you like people and people like you, and I have a gift for gab, then I can sell anything. I've been told that many times. You can sell anything. And I think about 4 years into my career, I realized very quickly that yes, I'm selling, but I'm not really in love. I'm not in passion with what I'm
Hmm.
selling, and I'm not in passion with who I'm doing it with. And so when I thought about it, I come from a generation of entrepreneurs. My
That's
grandfather was an
important.
entrepreneur. Yeah. He owned a business. My parents ran several different businesses when I was a kid. So I grew up in family businesses and seeing
Hmm.
my father start different businesses, right? He was very successful in the restaurant business. He pivoted into construction. He pivoted into facilities management, did extremely well. And so I know what that looks like to pivot. And
Mm.
so when I thought about it in terms of my sales career, I was making a lot of money, but I was very stressed out. I was losing my hair at
Oh,
24. It was bad. And I said, what else can I do? And I said to myself, you know what? If you can make $1 million for this company, you can make enough to feed yourself. That was
right.
always my go-to. And so I thought about what did I want to do? And back then, I'm dating myself a little bit. Back then, Spa Lady and Bally's fitness
Hmm.
were all the rage, right? So
Right.
all of my track and field buddies, they were really into this fitness thing and working out and the whole. We're past the Jane Fonda era, but
Yeah.
right before the, I guess you say 24-hour fitness era, right? So
Right.
they would invite me to these classes. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, back then it was a lot of spandex and things,
Yes,
but
I
it was still a
know.
lot of fun. People were
The
loud and
leg
crazy.
warmers and
Yes, it was a lot of fun. I was like, this is fabulous. I love this. I was like, how can I make this work? And so I got into it, right? I got a certificate. I started teaching. And when you're good at something, that's why I always say it's important that you're really good at your craft, but you need to look your craft. And I
Mm.
love the craft of athleticism, right? So
Right.
obviously when I started teaching, I love that. And people automatically assumed I could make them look like me.
Yeah.
They start coming up to me. They're like, do you do personal training? I had no idea what personal training even was. I said, well, I'm in sales, but let me see, what is that about? So I would look it up and I
Hmm.
said, well, I can try. And so I did. And I think back then when I first started, I think I was charging like $20 a session. I mean,
Hmm.
way back when, right? And so little by little, I started doing a little bit more, a little bit more. And I remember at that time, my sales manager asked me, she goes, I noticed that you're leaving, the office at like 5:30 every day. And somebody told me you're teaching classes. What are you doing that for? And, I didn't say, I said, it's just fun. It's just fun. And before I knew it, I had a following. And I said, you know what,
Wow.
Fran, you're doing enough that you can step out of here. And I stepped out and I went on my own. And little by little, as I grew the personal training piece, right? I
Hmm.
had clients that had corporations or worked for corporations that can you
Hmm.
take this into our corporation. And before I knew it, I had a corporate wellness business.
Wow. I
So the
love
rest
that.
is history.
And you know what I love the most about what you talked about is the example of your family being entrepreneurs, that it didn't seem like it was scary for you to step out and do that because you had that modeled for you. A lot of people are so afraid to step out with confidence. That helped build your confidence in being able, I could support myself. I could do this on my own. I've seen my dad pivot however many times and start new businesses. So having that, even if it was a subconscious uh, uh, and not a full awareness of it, it gave you that confidence to step out into your own thing instead of losing your hair, which I know
No,
that is
it's so
not
fun.
fun.
I
That
do
is
have
not. I
hair
mean,
under
you have
here, so
hair
it's so
now.
fun.
That's not why you have it wrapped up.
A
It's not.
turban today, but yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's not. But
Not
you
at
look
24,
beautiful
no.
with it. I love it. I love that. And so as you're doing these corporate wellness programs, your business just started growing and growing and growing.
Yeah.
So as your own leader now, what is one huge mistake that you made in your own leadership journey, or something that you could say, oops, as a leader that you did that you had to recover from, and how did you recover?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that I realize now, 20 years later, when I started my business, I started in 94, I incorporated in 97. And
Mm,
I didn't realize in 97 that I was really an innovator, right? Like that term has come on because being an entrepreneur is very cliche now.
yeah.
Everybody's starting a business and getting funding and blah, blah, blah. But at the time, I didn't know I was an innovator. And I was very much an innovator because there was no such thing as a WeBank or
Hmm.
an MSDC. It was just, here I am. I'm good at what I do. Can you use us? And I realized that as I was innovating, I was doing all of it. I was doing the operational meetings with my team. My team by 99 had swelled to about 60 trainers. So, I
Hmm.
mean, we were growing quickly and fast, and, it was exciting, but I was doing everything myself. And
Mm,
partly was because I didn't really understand, the margin piece, right, and the pricing, right. But I never thought about going and getting a pricing expert or pricing strategist for some of these
mm,
contracts. Never thought about that. Never thought about, hey, if you hire somebody from the team who's already training for you as an operations manager, let them with that skill set develop, and you can go and continue to innovate and pivot and pivot.
yeah.
So I think looking back now, we continue to innovate as a company. We're obviously in a much better position now where we can take on and bring on infrastructure and bench and
Mhm.
support. But I think even back then, realizing you have to, in your reinvesting in the business, you have to find ways that you can grow your team internally and delegate as you do it. Because again, that ties people back into the vision. And now that I look back, I realize, we had turnover here and there because people would get to where they wanted to get with their career in fitness, and they'd move on because I wasn't creating a
A
lane.
path, right.
Exactly. And you have to do all of that. So if you figure out early on what you love about your business and the
Mhm.
stuff that you don't like I've never liked the operations piece, right, at all. I've never liked the numbers piece at all. Outsource those pieces so you can continue to iterate and grow, pivot, and develop your business.
That's great, great advice. I love that because, yeah, we had a little conversation before that because there are things that I do in my own business that I don't want to do anymore. And I'm about ready to find people to hand that over to.
Throw it too.
Absolutely, absolutely. But um, in leading and managing people, because that could be a sticky point for many people in business too. How were you able to grow your own leadership skills in helping to recognize those people that you can elevate in your business? What are those strengths? And then, you know promote as they go versus finding, people because of turnover. So how were you able to navigate that?
Yeah, I love Oprah's take on reading. Right, she loves the hard books.
Hmm.
I have, if you ever visited one of my offices in the DC area in Virginia, I have an office that's just filled. It's like a library. So I'm
Nice.
very old school with that. I would just take things. Now I won't say I read all of the books, but at one point in the library, I think I had 1,000 different business books because
Wow.
I'm always absorbing. What are
Hmm.
people doing? How are they doing it? What's the secret sauce they're using over here? Secret sauce. And the one thing I think I started to do early on, I realized, is that different modalities in other lanes of business can be applied in your own business if you allow it. So I started to follow Steve Jobs and the way he iterated Apple and the way he intuitively made it interesting for people to want to use the technology. And I started to do that in my own business. And as I did that, that's when I feel like I started to put on the real leadership skills, maybe
Yeah.
around 2004, 2005. I realized I was coaching and I realized I was coaching and all of a sudden became this buzzword. I've been coaching for 10 years. So I found those pieces in my business that, again, I really enjoyed. And I really tried to develop those on that, good to great kind of thing.
Hmm.
Develop those strengths and be aware of your weaknesses, because a lot of times you can't necessarily train yourself out of or completely reverse those weaknesses. But my weakness is, I love to start new opportunities and then find someone to grow them now.
Hand it off.
And that's what I learned to do. I hand it off now, right? But I had to learn that through reading and learning and developing my skill as a leader.
That is wonderful. So many people are afraid to admit their weaknesses or afraid to seem weak in front of other people. So they won't even go for the coaching or look at how they can um, use their strengths more effectively. So bravo for you for recognizing that you listen, we're not perfect beings. Not nobody is.
No,
So just get over yourself. And and
don't
get
sweat the small stuff. That
don't
was one
sweat
of the
the
books
small
I
stuff.
read.
Get over yourself.
Yeah.
Hire the places where you are not, either it doesn't fulfill you or it's just not your thing and you shouldn't be doing it anyway.
Yeah,
It's
I think I learned that from one of the first marketers who is a behemoth in the industry, Allie Brown. I went
yeah,
to one of Allie's events, I want to say back in 2004, and she talked a lot about back then about getting an assistant and farming out. She's like, if you don't like writing your newsletter, right then, newsletters were all the rage.
all the
Then
rage.
get somebody else to
Easy.
do the newsletter. E-zine, there you go. Allie
Easy.
Brown. And so, I got somebody to write my e-zine. And so I always had money in my budget to do that because after a while, you have so many other things to worry about. So
Yeah.
little practices like that I learned little by little as I grew.
Yes, that's great. Uh Before I get to my um sort of final question, as I like to ask, is there anything that you want to share either about your business, about leadership, your own confidence as you grew, that if you want to share anything about that?
Yeah, a lot of our business and the services that we provide now, especially in the time that we're living right now in COVID, are around resilience.
Hmm.
We created a new program called Workforce Wakeup, which is really built on tools and resilience to really help employers put the right tools into place. I have a new forum called the Workforce Resilience and Wellbeing Forum, which is all about how do we talk about it? What are the trends? What's the new research saying? How do we parlay into that? What are the new products coming out around that to support the workforce as they get back into the organizations and get back into these bricks and mortar buildings? So how do we think about that? But I think if based on your question, what I'm hearing is, what would I tell 25-year-old Fran as she started her business, now 20 plus years ago? I would say, you got this, girl. You hear a lot, you're more than enough. Well, sometimes you are and sometimes you aren't, you know what I mean? But I do think you got this
Hmm.
would have been the confident spearhead just to keep pushing me even more and even faster. Because I
Mm.
think, especially as women, and particularly sometimes as women of color, we doubt when we can't see,
Hmm.
ourselves, or we can't see the track record or the track or the road. And back when I was starting, there was nobody else out there doing it. There
Yes.
was no, there was
You
no,
were laying the bricks.
yeah, there was no women hardly. There was a couple women, and definitely not women of color. And so you got this, and just saying, just keep pushing, just keep going. The doors will open, and the doors that close, there's another one's going to open, but you got this. Because if you had enough sense and wherewithal and confidence to get at the starting line, I'm a former sprinter.
You're a sprinter. Mm-hmm.
Then you got enough to finish the race. Now you may not be Usain Bolt, but you can finish the race. So finish
So
the
do you
race.
still run, Fran?
Not like I used to.
Not like you used to? Because people laugh at me at my 6 minute in the morning run. I do 6 minutes in the morning. I'm like, I'm going to run full out for 6 minutes. That's it.
I love it.
That's what I do.
That keeps your glow, though. I bet you anything that keeps your exhilarating glow. Wow. So you
Yeah.
just go full out for as far, do you go flat, hills? What do you do?
No, flat, like around it's like 0.65 miles. It's not, they're like, why don't you do a full mile? I said, because it doesn't get me back to my house. I run it till I get back to my house.
But you know what? That's one of the mantras when I was training years ago. Don't reach out to me for training because I don't train anybody anymore.
Yeah.
But when I did, I always would tell clients, because I had executive women, and for whatever reason, I always attracted the women who hated working out. They were not passionate about it. And I'm a former professional track and field athlete, so I love it. And I'd always get these clients who hated it, and I'd always tell them, just find your lane. I don't care what it is you do, but find something that resonates with you, that makes your body feel good. I don't care what it is, standing on your head, whatever. Because when you come and see me, I'm going to put you through the paces. But when you're not with me, you got to figure out what that is. So you got to figure out what that is that gets you up in the morning. And if it's your 6 minutes, then go.
That's my 6 minutes. I said to myself, because I used to walk for 30 minutes to an hour, like a 5-mile walk. And I used to do and I'm like, I don't have time for all of this. Because I would make every excuse. I'm one of those women. I do not like to work out. I don't. And I was blessed to have great metabolism my whole life, that I really didn't work out much.
Yeah.
But then when I hit my 40s and I had a son, my son was born 2 years before I hit 40. And suddenly, man, those pounds wouldn't come off. It's like, what is going on?
The hardest time for women to lose weight is in their menopausal.
Oh my God. It was
menopausal, menopause, and postmenopause.
It was so hard.
Yeah.
And so I started walking, and I would walk, and then one day I just said, you know what? I make every excuse not to do this because I hate doing it.
Yep.
Let me go out and run. And I started running, and I went from, I think, a half-hour walk to a 15-minute run and doing the same thing. And I sped it till it got to 6 minutes. That's the speed. It got to 6 minutes. And I said, you know what? That is sustainable for me. I cannot give myself an excuse not to get out of bed and give myself 10 minutes if I count putting on my sneakers and my running outfit and getting out the door. So I can't make an excuse not to give myself that 10 minutes a day.
Yep.
So yeah, so that's how that whole thing turned out. And then I did some research, and I found out, like sprinting, all the benefits of just going out and doing it. And at almost 52, as long as my knees hold up, I'll be doing it. I'll be doing it.
I love it. It's nothing like having that one thing that makes your body feel good. Yeah. For me, it's Pilates. I've had multiple knee surgeries, so I may not look like it, but I have. And Pilates was the one thing that rehabbed me, brought me back, and just makes me feel good. That 30 minutes in the morning is everything.
Yeah.
That and a cup of coffee is everything.
So I love it.
Really get it.
Now, you touched on something that I want to go back to, because you mentioned women and women of color, and you were a trailblazer, and you started these things. Now, as you went into corporate, because back then, I think it was, it was pretty male dominated. How are you, as the CEO of your own company, stepping into these corporate arenas? What was that welcome like as a Black woman coming in saying, hey, I'm coming in here and I'm going to do all this stuff for you?
Oh, it wasn't. There was no welcome. I'm sure you've heard the stories. You show up and they think that you're somebody's assistant, or they're waiting for the CEO or whatever. I never forget when venture capital money became a big thing, and we had idea around our first app. Aerobodies has launched multiple apps since, obviously fitness and apps have been a big thing.
Since the .com boom.
Yes, but when the dot-com money first came rolling out, 99, 2000, we had a meeting with venture capital. It was four white guys, all I think what 50s, and me.
Mhm.
And I never forget the whole meeting. I don't think they asked any questions. They just kept staring at me. And I realize now why, and at that time, I think I was, obviously in my late 20s, early 30s. And, now there's so many things, like whoever's listening to this, if you're a person of color or in a cultural, come from a multicultural background, go for it. But back then there was not, there was no conversation about it. So there was no welcome, right? I came
Yeah.
to meetings and people, they didn't talk, they didn't open doors. Lots of doors closed, lots didn't open, lost lots of contracts. And after the fact, I realized why, but it never stopped me. I
Yes.
did it in spite of. And I realize now, very fearless. I've never really, you know, necessarily owned that because I didn't feel like I needed to, but I realized I had to be very fearless because otherwise I
Mhm.
would have stopped and gone back. I've told many people, many people come to me for mentoring. And the one thing I would tell them is I know I could have made millions of dollars more if I had stayed in corporate, if that's where my heart was, because I would have been paid more money,
Sure.
to be maybe the token or whatever
Yeah.
the case is. But I didn't
Affirmative
want that.
action.
Yeah, I didn't want that. So now, 2021, we've arrived. Our company, we've actually worked with over 200,000
Yeah.
employee lives. So, we've done some pretty incredible things. But if I had stopped and I had been afraid and I had lost confidence, it would not have been. And I think
You
the
would
thing that
not
I
have
love the
impacted all
most,
those lives.
yeah,
Yeah.
the thing I think I love the most now is that I realize now I can pay it forward. There are
Mm.
young women of all color schemes on my team that now I can mentor within. I mean, they don't realize the legacy that I'm laying for them and the opportunities that they have that are just opening because I
Yeah.
see that they can do it.
You're a woman making history. Yes, I love it because yeah, back then I'm sure you had a lot of doors closed. And did you see at the time, did you see it the um now it's very stereotypical, but did you see the racism? Did you see and feel it, or did you just say, oh, whatever, and move on?
It's couched, I mean,
Hmm.
people can smile and they say the right thing, it's the not right,
Yeah, we're gonna
political speak
pass
or
on
what
this
have
for
you.
now.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
you're
Yes,
very nice.
they were always very kind and
Hmm.
always very, cordial about it. But I will say this, with all the doors that closed of persons, I never forget, I was also I was a member of Astia years ago, which is a women's VC angel investor group, and they took us to New York and they taught us how to pitch, and we actually went into a boardroom and pitched, a couple of VCs and all this. It was like training, right? And that whole boardroom, it was a mixture, no people of color, men and
Mm.
women. And even though I didn't necessarily get warm fuzzy vibes, I will say it really taught me how to stand in my own strength
Wow.
and
Yeah.
speak strongly. So now when I have boardrooms like that, those same clients are the first ones that want to sign the check.
That's awesome. Wow. Yay, Fran. So you talked a little bit before about your resilience series, like you came out with this whole product to help people during this pandemic. Uh, Tell me a little bit more about that and how can people really take care of themselves during this time?
Sure. So the reason that I came out with this, and I'm actually doing a clubhouse next week, my first clubhouse on strategy, your people strategy in terms of resilience and building resilience. When you think about COVID and everything that we have been going through over the last year, and now we're getting all these vaccines and everyone is, bursting out like flowers, right? Like we're all like tulips, let's go, let's go. But what we're not really talking about is the potential PTSD that people have dealt with,
Oh,
all
yeah,
the stuff that's under there that we're kind of pushing through and acting like, yeah, yeah, let's just get back out. Let's get back out. That's going to
yeah,
show up.
it
You know,
will.
the analogy I use is a physical one, right? In the fitness world, right? So it's the beginning of the day, you're having a good morning, you're kind of running through your house and you're doing things, and you decide to lift up a box that is not, you're really not ready and it's not really available for your back to do that yet, but you're feeling so good, you don't realize it. You pick it up, you throw it in the car, you keep running, you go through your whole day. And about 6:30, 7 o'clock, you've got this pain
Hmm.
and you don't know where that thing is coming from. And until you get to the therapist and they make you walk back through your week, you
Yes, to
realize where
find
it
what
came
it
from.
is.
And I think
Hmm.
that's exactly the same thing that's going to happen, unfortunately, for all of us
Hmm.
worldwide, globally. And where it's going to impact is the managers and the directors, and particularly my HR, that's my folks, my HR leaders who are going to have to deal with,
Yeah,
all this trauma
the
that people have
wave,
gone through. Yeah.
like the waves and the waves and the waves. It would be
Yeah.
like a tsunami, like just waves coming in.
Yeah. So that
Yeah.
resiliency and building that and ensuring that the leaders are tasked with the skills to be able to, we're tasking our leaders, and I keep going back to HR, but our team leads and our directors with being able to be therapists and coaches and, understanding with empathy and having great emotional
Mm.
intelligence. Who checked in to make sure that they've been able to get all of that and own that? They may have gone to the training, but have they perfected the skill? And now
Yeah.
we're assuming that people have perfected the skill, and we're going to rush them back into these buildings. And what's going to come up as a result of that? Who knows? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But it's going
Yeah.
to bubble up because we haven't really dealt with it. So
It
that's
is
what
going to
our
bubble up.
series are all about, really, is helping people with the resilience and that well-being and all the tools that they need to develop around that.
Because we really don't know what's going on. I mean, there are people who have been stuck in their homes, afraid to even go out, but they're working every day. But we don't know the psychological effect that has had, that they don't even want to go outside. And so they're smiling on Zoom, smiling and being all bubbly, but still afraid to step out of their doors.
Yeah.
So that is an incredible opportunity that you're making available for businesses and companies to be able to take advantage of to help their people overcome some of this. And finally, I love this conversation so much. There's so much richness in your journey and everything else, and how you were able to overcome the slam doors and just keep persevering through everything. And I love your attitude, Fran. I just absolutely love it. But for, let's say, your nieces or nephews or someone coming up, what is some advice that you would have about confidence, especially in this time that we're in now, moving forward, to help continue to build their confidence and their leadership abilities?
Yeah, I think the thing that I would tell myself, and I definitely tell my nieces, because I have nieces that are always, I'm Fran, can we talk? I have a business idea. And I always tell them, I applaud your willingness to ask for help. Don't stop asking.
Mm,
It's one of the things I learned from the VC journey. I've never taken, funding, whatever. We've always bootstrapped and made it work. But I, had lots of conversations with VCs and angel investors because you learn, right? And
yes.
the one thing I've always noticed is that young white guys never have a problem asking for money. And their business is literally a piece of
A
paper.
piece of paper.
So I learned that as women, and not just women of color, and I mean all women, we need to ask for help faster, sooner, and all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I liken it to the moms that raise little boy. The little girl's gonna figure it out. But the little boy, mom,
Yeah.
mom, mom, has no problem with that. So as women, we're always trying to handle it. I got it. I got it. I
I
got it.
got, yes, yes.
Stop gotten it. Start asking. And you'll get there that much faster. Just saying, 20 years in the
Stop
business.
gotten it. I'm gonna put that on a t-shirt. Stop gotten it and ask. Ask a question. Yeah, I don't got it. No, but it's true, as moms especially, we try to handle everything.
Mhm.
Everything. And even this morning, I was telling my daughter, listen, if you don't like how this is done, do it yourself, right? Stop complaining about something. If you don't like how it's being done, do it. Don't come to me complaining about it and, mom, what should we do? No, you figure it out.
Yep.
But in a way that it's not like you handle everything, because she wasn't coming to me asking me. She was coming to me complaining to me. I was just going to complain about somebody else doing
Oh, yeah.
something the
Oh,
wrong way,
Yep.
not the way that she wants it done.
Yep.
And I'm like, if you don't like how they're doing it, then do it yourself or
Yep.
find another way to do it.
Yep.
But don't complain to me, because I'm not doing that anymore. My job for that is over. Mama, don't do that no more. It's like,
I love it. I love it. I love it.
I raised you. She's 18. I'm like, I'm done. Mama's done with that. You got to figure that one out. And she's going to hate me for saying this on the show, because they hate when I talk about them so much. They're like, Mom, why do you have to bring me into this?
I love it.
They hate it.
You're championing them. Don't they do that? You're championing them.
Listen, they'll learn one of these days. They'll learn. I said, I'm building a legacy here. Y'all could look back at this and say, oh, I remember that. Y'all can have great memories.
Yep.
Years and years from now.
And I want to add something to what I said, because I don't want people to get the wrong impression that, I'm for one group and against the other group. But I think the thing that I've learned in my journey is that we can all learn from each other, right?
Absolutely.
Like, one of the things I love to do, one of my favorite passions to do when I have time, is to ride my bike all over the mall. Like, I live in DC, so we have the big national mall, and I ride my bike all over the mall. And please don't ever find me, because I have my earphones on and my hands are going because I'm dancing and I'm just moving and having a great time. And it's always the white guys that stop me and say, you're having a fabulous time. I wish I could do that. You know what I mean? So I think we can learn from each other.
We can definitely learn from each other.
I learned how to be fearless in the boardroom. They learned how to be fearless on the mall. You know what I mean? So we're all learning. We're all learning.
We're all learning. And I think now in this climate that we're in, especially after last summer with everything that, again, bubbled to the surface, it couldn't stay quiet.
Yep.
We're all learning from each other a little bit more. I think we're all kind of trying to understand each other's journey and see where our commonalities intersect, and how we can learn about our differences and still be okay with that. We are different, but we have some common experiences, and your experience is your experience, and I don't think, at least I didn't get the impression that you're saying one is better than the other, or it's just that, listen, if this group of people don't have a problem doing it, then you don't have a problem doing it either. Take a lesson from there and incorporate that, because you're right. As women, we do hold back and not take that step of audacious confidence when we should, and lean in and take those bold steps. So thank you, bold Fran, for being on this show. I really love what you had to share with your journey, because it's, we've all had challenges. Life is challenges, but it's an opportunity to learn from one another and grow and become better at this game of life that we're playing. And I can't wait to come to DC and play with you on the mall.
Have a good time. I have a great time.
I know you do. I can't wait. All right. So thank you, Fran. Thank you very much. How can people find you? How can they contact you? I mean, I'll have it in the show notes, but you can also share.
Well, I'm all over LinkedIn. That's the first place you should stop by. If you're looking for any particular, we have lots of stuff out here, right? A lot of stuff in the blogosphere, tools and resources around well-being for your teams, for your leads, and also for resiliency. So stop by LinkedIn first. You can also find Workforce Wakeup on LinkedIn, and our new forum, Workforce Resilience and Wellbeing. And that forum is really for directors and leaders. But we have our new app now in the App Store, the Google Play Store, as well as the Apple Store. So again, we're all over the net. Find us anywhere, but start with LinkedIn.
And it'll be all in the show notes. So make sure you check that out. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I really appreciate it. And for those of you who are watching or listening to this podcast, thank you. And I encourage you to lead yourself, lead your organization, and lead your teams with audacious confidence. Until next time, have the best rest of your week. Bye-bye. Audacious confidence is the unshakable belief in yourself that's so brave and so bold that you step into what's possible despite your feelings, fears, or failures. I encourage you to like, comment, subscribe, and share this out with your friends. To check out more episodes of this podcast, visit our blog, aliciacouri.com/podcast. This is Alicia Couri inviting you to lead your life, your teams, and your organization with audacious confidence. Until next time.